Howdy! The goal of this senior design project was to validate the use of CFD models to simulate a flow control valve. The project team was comprised of senior-level mechanical engineers at Texas A&M University. The company that sponsored this project was Chromatic Industries, a valve manufacturing company based in Conroe, Texas that produces the HCV valve. For this project, both a CFD model and an experimental apparatus were built to model the flow characteristics through the HCV valve. The data collected during analysis was the flow coefficient, which is influenced by flow rate, pressure change across the valve, specific gravity of the flowing fluid, and other valve design qualities. Measurements were taken at 5-degree increments as the valve was opened at 90 degrees and closed at 0 degrees. The experimental apparatus was constructed in a space provided on campus. The system contains a flow loop where the pressure differential across the valve was measured as water was circulated. After all experimental data was recorded, the CFD simulations were ran at the same conditions during experimental testing, as in temperature and pressure, so the two models could be compared. For the CFD simulation studies portion of the analysis, a SOLIDWORKS model of the HCV valve was provided to the team by the company sponsor. This file was then imported to a program called StarCCM+, where the flow simulations took place. Now that the original model was implemented, the internal volume of the valve containing the fluid was extracted by generating a volume mesh within the valve. This mesh contains the physics of the system and fluid so that the simulation can solve for the desired properties. During simulations, the changes in fluid velocity were displayed to show changes in the flow through the valve. The maximum velocity, shown in red, is seen as the fluid exits the port of the valve. For this figure, the valve is only open at 45 degrees, or halfway open. The side view of the velocity profile of the simulation shows a vortex directly after fluid exits the valve, which then becomes a fully developed flow downstream of the valve, where the measurements are actually taken for analysis. After the simulation ran to steady state, the pressure of the fluid was mapped by the volume mesh to show the pressure differential across the valve taken for the flow coefficient. After all data was taken from the computer and experimental studies, results were generated for each of the 5 different valve designs to compare the flow coefficients as the valve was opened. All 5 plots showed similar trends to those shown for the 30-degree V-notch valve design. The CFD results showed very similar trends to those found experimentally. In conclusion, the project team was able to validate the possible use of CFD modeling of a flow control valve instead of experimentation. Further research should be conducted to verify the degree of accuracy at which programs such as StarCCM+ can be used as a substitute for concrete testing. Thank you.